Hey guys, it's me, Kelly. I have a super, super special treat for you today. We have Teal Swan in the house, and we're going to be talking to her about a multitude of things. I told you she was going to be on the show, and you guys sent me like 1,000 questions, and I'm going to be asking her all the questions that they approved. So, introducing Teal. Teal, can you please tell everybody who you are that don't know? I think the majority of people watching this know who you are. But for those who don't know you, how do you want to introduce yourself?
I think the best way to sum myself up is that I'm basically a new thought leader. Because a lot of the stuff that I like to talk about goes beyond spirituality, it goes beyond health and healing and beyond all that other stuff. So if we could just like mash that into one subject, it would be about the progression of thought. And I think I kind of fell into this, which is what most of us end up doing when we find our real purpose. It's not like we knew that from the get-go. It's kind of like you end up there as a result of just going in the direction of what felt good to you at the time. So um, it's an interesting thing, though, that I'm doing this job because I was born with extrasensory abilities. That is, I mean, I'm sure we'll gonna get into that later, but you could consider me somebody who's come into this world with filters kind of blown. The filters that we naturally have of our sense perception is what enables us to see the physical dimension as a solid thing. And that perception is really destroyed in me. So I'm able to see things pre-manifestation. And that comes with a lot of awesome parts to it and a lot of really super not so awesome parts to it, things that I felt like were curses when I was younger. And I wasn't really, when I was young, I wasn't taken real well. My parents moved to a super religious rural area where they thought that all these gifts that I was exhibiting were gifts of the devil because they believe that only men can have the powers of priesthood. Things like seeing dead people, talking to them, seeing auras, being able to lay your hands on someone and heal them. So I was targeted by a cult that was in the area where I grew up in and by somebody who was a loose acquaintance of my family who infiltrated my family in order to become like a mentor to me. And I was inducted through him into these cults. And for 13 years, I was tortured ritualistically and physically and mentally and sexually. So that was how I spent most of my childhood. And after that, I ended up escaping when I was 19 years old, and I was a mess, to put it mildly. And I wanted nothing to do with healing anything beyond our physical world. In fact, I wanted to be as physical as possible, so I became a professional athlete. And it's like kind of like one of those things where the farther you run, the faster your shadows catch up. So as much as I tried to get away from it, I realized it was never going to happen. So I kind of spun in the other direction after I had my son. He was the real catalyst for that. And I realized, because I was hoping to have like a jock kid, somebody who just would never have to deal with the issues I had to deal with. But of course, when he came out, I saw his little aura, and it looks like a prism. It's what most people call a crystal aura, and I was like, oh my God, it's over. Like, I've had a kid who's just like me, and he's gonna go, you know. So here's my mind projecting in the future. Like, his life's gonna be a living hell like mine was. But it occurred to me that the only way that I'm going to be able to teach him how to embrace his abilities and his natural self is if I do it. So I embarked on that journey of embracing the very things which got me into so much trouble in the first place. And so I started seeing people one-on-one healing, things like that. And I would talk to them about these things I took for granted, universal truths that come through it really super easily to me. You know, don't ask me to fix a car or like figure out what to do on the computer, but that other stuff is super easy. And what I noticed is that people didn't know this stuff. And not only that, it could greatly benefit them. So I wrote my first book. And from there, it was like an explosion, doing these synchronization workshops around the world and talking on all kinds of radio shows and TV shows. And I found out that I really love this. And it's not that I really love it. Like, this is my whole existence. It's like I could talk about these subjects and not notice that 16 hours have gone by, you know? So that's how I ended up where I am today. Yeah.
Well, it's really funny listening to you because very similar things are coming out of your mouth that come out of my mouth. It's just a little bit different vocabulary, but that sounds really close to mine. I admire some people on this planet, and some of the people that you would think I would admire, I don't. because they've always had an easy life. And that's what I admire about you, is you fell down. You got back up. You got back up beautifully. And then now you're a wonderful example for those to help not fall down, or in the process of falling down, that you can help them. I think that's an absolutely beautiful thing.
Yeah, my ride has definitely not been a graceful one, but I don't really support the idea of living a graceful life because I feel like we didn't come here to be careful and to get it right. We came here to explore. That is going to involve some bumps and scrapes, for sure.
Yes, it did. Well, where did you get your knowledge of all of this? You talked. I want to talk about the filters a little bit later, but did you study any religions? Did you do any self-study, or did this all just come to you in the form of knowledge from the universe? Where do you get all of this?
You know, being born in indigo, I tend to be one of those people that has a very difficult time learning directly from other people like a teacher. I think that would be the easy way, and I have never taken that way, so most of my knowledge comes from personal experience. There's nothing like going through the kind of abuse I went through, which is superbly extreme, in order to make you learn things that most people who are inside the box would never come up against. And suffering tends to be the doorway that most people walk into enlightenment with, and I'm no exception. So walking through that door of, like, the amount of suffering that it's just, the only other people who understand that amount of suffering are the people that have already been through that door themselves. So you'll get what I mean. It's sort of like when you walk through that door, the floodgates are open and the truth of the universe just pop right into your experience. So besides that, having these abilities, as they call it, the lack of the ability, I should say, to be completely, fully physical makes it so that I have access to a lot of multi-dimensional awareness. So I can get out of body easier than I can be in body. This actually takes more effort for me to focus here than being out in other reaches of the universe. That also makes it easy because I can listen to what people would call thought forms, like your spirit guides. They're always talking, chattering, so I listen to them as well. And also, once you walk into enough awareness about this world, what you notice is that the entire world is basically a venue for the universe to use to talk to you. So the way that this goes now is, if I'm curious about something or if I ask a question, what I do is step into a space of total openness and reception, and then what will happen is that the universe, which is the infinite being which unites and is in and of all of us, uses anything it wants, basically, as to communicate. It can use an animal, a plant, a random person sitting on the street, anything it wants. So I'll ask for the question, and then I'll be drawn. I just sort of let the universe pull me, and then what will happen is I'll end up in a place where someone turns over and just like says something. And even though it has nothing, maybe what they say has nothing to do with what they think they're talking to me about, that's the answer I was looking for. So the whole world becomes the teacher, everything. Yeah.
That is so cool. That is really awesome. On religion, what is your opinion on, I guess, religion in general, all religions, but also can you please talk about the New Age religion and what you feel about that?
People, when I first came into the scene, people were calling me a leader of the New Age. So it's interesting that you asked me that question. I actually am one of these people that doesn't have an issue with it. But that's because I understand what the New Age actually means, as opposed to what it has been done with it in our society. The way that I look at this will go 2 and 2. So here we go. Let's start with religion, and then I'll tie that in. So religion essentially was something which enabled us to make a practice of spirituality, but it is not spirituality in and of itself. And I feel like you don't stay in kindergarten when you're 20. Because you've graduated past that point. And right now, human consciousness is at a point where it's ready to graduate beyond religion and beyond ritual in general, because the recognition is not that God is out there, it's that God is in here and out there and everywhere and in everything. So once we graduate to that kind of an understanding, staying in religion is a little bit like doing times tables when you're in college and you're ready for like trigonometry. it helped us to get to where we are today, but at that same time, it's holding us back from a lot of universal awareness, from a lot of knowledge, and most of all, it's holding us back from ourselves. Besides, the information that has been fed into mainstream religions came from thousands of years ago before our understanding was what it was today. So if you see spirituality, if you see the universe the way it really is, we should be continuously progressing, not latching onto concepts which were delivered to us thousands and thousands of years ago. If there's some truth in it, it will pop up now as well as in the future. So we don't need to worry about grabbing onto it as if it will never present itself again. I feel like people are really ready to do what I call sort of cocktailing their life. What that means is the individual person is meant to create their own religion, their own form of spirituality for themselves alone. So your spiritual practice will look like a collection of the things that work for you. So maybe I'll take the prayer bit from Christianity because that works for me. Maybe I'll take the meditation bit from Buddhism because that's what works for me. And we just keep going down the line. And we don't just involve our religious teachers, also self-help people too. Oh, you know what? It actually really works for me to eat a healthy diet. Maybe a non-religious person taught me that, but that can be considered a spiritual practice. So we're making a cocktail of what works for us, right? And that's where we're really going to come into contact with our own divinity and become enlightened. So the reason that I really enjoy the idea of the New Age is that the New Age really promotes the idea that the truth is held in all, no exceptions, all faith-based systems. And so it encourages people to take from this bit and take from this bit and take from this bit, and to throw out what doesn't work anymore. So I'm right on board with anything that works with that. Can the Illuminati or people like this utilize a faith system like the New Age in order to do more harm? Hell yeah, but it's not the first time that's happened in history. But I wish
that's the truth.
Oh yeah, but I wish that people really trusted their selves, which is what I want to teach people to do, to not place their faith in something external, including religion or including New Age, and simply put the faith back with themselves and learn how to discern for themselves so that they're not worried about whether somebody's going to pull them off or whether the New Age itself is bad or whether Christianity itself is bad. More so trusting the self to be that person who knows what to take and what to leave, yeah?
It is just like hearing myself talk, listening to you. This is fantastic because people like us, when they're at their homes alone, they don't have anybody to talk to, they think that they're all by themselves. They're the only ones that are going through this. So just me talking to you makes me feel better because it's like I'm not the only one.
No.
Now on your gifts, you said that you have gifts. What gifts do you have, and at what ages did you discover you had these gifts? Did you develop them?
That's the thing. I was born with. Well, here's the debate. The debate is whether I was completely born with all of these abilities, or whether the normal age that children turn these things off. So you're talking about 1.5 to 2 years old. Most children, what they do is they come in with this like extreme openness to all energies, and they learn to see objects by ignoring the background energy noise. And that's when they lose their knowledge of the quantum field and start to look at a solid object, right? Now, here's this major debate in my life is whether I came in this way and that was how it was always going to be, or whether the vaccine injury that I went through when I was quite young is the reason that filter was blown. So
that's interesting. Because I was going to ask you about vaccines later. Cool.
Long story short, I don't remember a day, and neither do my parents, when I did not have these. It's more like when a kid comes into their family and starts having to fit into society somewhere, in that age where you're kind of like, look, these are playmates, let's play with some people, look, let's go to preschool. That's when these issues really started to crop up, and that's how they were seen to begin with. They were not seen as gifts by my family, even up until probably I was in my teen years. Until then, it was like, what is wrong with this kid, you know? So that's when they started to see the major problems, when my teachers would call my parents in for a meeting because I was talking to my teacher from her dead father. That didn't go over well.
Yeah, my daughter experiences the same thing at school.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it was like a nightmare. So I started realizing when I was about 4.5 that people didn't see the way that I saw. And it started getting really difficult because I had to try to discern what other people saw versus what I was seeing so that I could act like a normal person, which is a total act, I'll tell you. Of
Oh, that's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I had to learn basically to focus on you instead of all the other stuff that's going on in the background. And that took me a long time. Yeah.
Yes, and it's through that struggle that you learn learn what to do.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
um,
It's a
I
lot
have,
less glamorous a story when I'm retelling it, isn't it?
I know. Well, hey, we're just ice Kelly and the Raw. We're just chatting. You probably know by now. I died. It was almost 4 years ago, and I had my wisdom teeth pulled and extracted and suffering. I suffered for 10 days, almost constant pain, the most mind-numbing pain you've ever had. After that 10 days, I basically died on my couch with my husband holding my hand. I stopped breathing. I went out of my body. I've got some videos. I'll post the links below to that. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was when I died and I popped out. I won't talk about all the millions of other things, but there was a guy. He was made of blue energy,
Mhm.
a little bit like Dr. Manhattan, only you can't see muscles or facial features or anything. He's made of blue light. I'll say he because it had a male voice. The voice was perfect, and he was gesturing, "Come this way. This is the way to go. Come to me." And he kept continuously, he never stopped talking and trying to direct me into the tunnel, while this tractor beam is the best way I can call it. It just grabs onto you and it's just pulling you up towards the tunnel. But I was just distracted by all the shiny stuff around me that, I wasn't headed towards the tunnel. So he just kept talking, "Come, this way." And then he said, "It's your time to go." And just instantly I knew it wasn't. And I said, "No, it's not my time to go. I have to go back." And without any effort at all, I just started to go back towards my body. And it's, who's this blue guy? Because I interviewed TJ Bork. He was a nurse, and he was there for over 100 people who died. And he said for every single one of them, the blue guy appeared right before they died. None of them came back. And one person, when they died, there was a red light being there. Who is this? What's going on?
What it is that so there's a race of beings in the universe. They actually exist in 11th dimensional state. They're blue lyrans is what they call them. So it's an extraterrestrial energy. But they've noticed that people have a very difficult time with the transition from living to dying if they're attached to their identity and ego self. And so what'll happen is that either somebody will have a specific guide that's Lyran, or else there will be one who that's their whole purpose, kind of like mine is talking to people. Their whole purpose is to project themselves into that space, which is usually a fifth or sixth dimensional space, right before the crossover back to source energy. And then that being is in charge of facilitating that movement back or forth between dimensions. So he catalyzed you. It's interesting that you didn't go with him. Most people do.
And I kicked myself for 2 years. I was so mad at myself. I can't even tell you. I was angry at gravity. Gravity was the number one thing that really pissed me off. Pardon my French. I hate gravity. It's just you don't realize that you feel like you're 1,000 pounds until you get out of your body and you're weightless. Now the next time I'm very leery, I guess, because I mean if this was Source calling me into the light and everything, then Source wouldn't have said it's your time to go and then let me go. I mean, that's my opinion, that Source knows everything. Do I trust this blue guy the next time I die? Do I go with him, or am I going to be involuntarily reincarnated?
First of all, Source doesn't know everything, because you wouldn't be in this physical body if it did. This is the most interesting thing which we have to understand. The religious idea is that we're catching up to some sort of perfection or all-knowingness, but the way it really works is that the universe itself, this mass consciousness that we call God, projects forth living beings. So this is the important part. If it's projecting those beings forth, that means that you are essentially the leading edge. It's learning based on your preferences. So it's learning based on what you choose. So Source learned something the minute you chose to come back. And the thing that we have to understand too is that even though these beings, that like the guides and disinhabited people like you met, even though they have such a higher perspective, and so their perspective is highly useful to us, they still hold a perspective. So whether it was his perspective that is your time or not, still doesn't negate your free will. It still doesn't mean that he knew better than you do. And so there's absolutely no such thing as involuntary reincarnation. That is a major flaw there, because it's to regard oneself separate from source energy. You are as much a god as the infinite consciousness that is the unity of all beings is God. And so you saying I'm really scared of involuntary reincarnation is like saying that God is afraid of involuntary reincarnation, which it isn't. But a great many things were learned by Source, I can tell you, because of that choice you made.
Yeah, it was really strange. I've almost 100% of the people who've had near-death experiences that I've spoken with, they didn't come back voluntarily.
Yeah.
Someone told them, you have to go back. They're like, no, I don't want to. And it was like, I couldn't figure out why I came back, because it was like, this is crap. You have to eat. You have to fix your hair.
I know.
Things don't just instantly, develop. This is like, duh.
Yeah, I've had a very hard time with like, using the restroom. That's the one I can't get over. But
I know, it's like, why? What purpose? You don't have to do this outside of this existence.
Here's the thing. I'm going to become because of the perspective which I hold, I kind of piss a lot of people off that would rather believe certain things. But I'm going to tell you that every single person who comes back voluntarily. Here's the thing. People either come back because of their allowing and wanting of living, or they come back because of their resistance to living. So what you're watching there is that when people say they didn't come back voluntarily, what they mean is that they were resisting life to such a degree that they actually made themselves a match to it. Because in this universe, the law of attraction applies to everything, including all dimensions. That means that if I resist something, I'm focused upon it. And in that moment, when they focused so strongly upon living, and that they were resisting living, they made themselves a match to living. That's the real reason. So they came back for the same reason that a lot of suicide victims don't complete, meaning there's so many people that survive suicide attempts because instead of wanting death, they're more so resisting life. So they're a match to what they resist. Make sense?
Yes. That makes absolute sense. And that's why I love you, is because you use words very well. I use third grade words. And you use the real words. I paint pictures. That's what I do. I paint pictures with words so that everybody can understand. But you are so eloquent with your speech. You're able to say these things with like actual words. But it was about 3 months after I came back. I was mad. I was just mad. And I was talking to, blindly. I just was mad, anger. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, my fists in the air, like, why did I come back? This is so hard. I couldn't relate to other people. It felt like, don't you know you're in a video game? You're looking around and no one has any clue that they're in this holographic video game and it was crap. So I was like, why did I come back? And the answer they gave me was to legalize marijuana. And I said, I'm not going to ask you any more questions for a long time. So, okay, what's about the cannabis? What do you think about the cannabis and its use in spirituality or medicine or textiles on this planet?
Obviously, cannabis has a very beneficial vibration for mankind. I myself am more interested in the implications of juicing the raw leaves rather than smoking it, because what most people don't know about cannabis is that it's only when you heat that chemical compound to a degree that it becomes a compound that affects the brain. So it's the unheated aspect of the vibration of cannabis which has the most implication for us as a species in terms of illness. I should say body restoration rather than illness. It teaches how to be in alignment. It teaches allowing better than almost any other herb, which is why people enjoy it. Myself, when it comes to the altered mind aspect of it, I'm not really a fan. We find these medicinals at a point where the medicinals have something to teach us. So a lot of time over history, the medicinals have been the ones, these plant medicines have been the ones that open the door to the rest of the universe for us. But we're at a point, like I said, where humans are a lot more capable, instead of using a tool, of recognizing themselves. See, there's no difference to me between religion and a plant medicine. No difference whatsoever. You're still using a tool to access spirituality. I would prefer, of course, always to draw a person back to themselves as the doorway to these other dimensions or whatever else they're trying to facilitate. The major threat that we have here with cannabis is the fact that you have a really unhealthy society here that's full of conditions where people basically feel not free, and they feel in a resistant state, right? So if you have somebody who's got a lot of stress, a lot of resistance, and has a difficult time allowing themselves mentally to line up with their own alignment, then cannabis is like an allowing medicine. That's what it does. It says, here, allow. And so people will instantly feel that relief, and they will come, it'll feel to them like they're flowing downstream. And so they get addicted to that tool because it allows them to feel that sensation of allowing and that sensation of relief. But what we're meant to do is to let cannabis teach us allowing, but then learn how to facilitate allowing ourselves instead of continually rely on the crutch. It's like, are we going to condemn crutches? Hell no. When people's legs are broken, great. I got a few people I would love to feed cannabis to. But why would you use a crutch if you don't have to? Or after too long, then it becomes an inhibitor. And the problem with cannabis also is that because it puts you in such an allowing state, it also takes you out of the creator state. So the key that makes a human so incredibly powerful, a human specifically, is that humans are major creators. But with creators, you watch major resistance. So it's like, I really know what I want, right? Much more than a dog would. Dog or a cat, if you observe those species, they have small desires, and they line up with them quickly. And so the gap isn't very big between where they are and where they want. Human goes, I really want that. I have to fly. In fact, I'm going to die if I don't fly. And then they start resisting. What happens if I can't fly? I hate the feeling of gravity. See that resistance?
Yeah, I feel that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So humans, on one hand, are the greatest creators. Trust me, this species fascinates everybody that's in the rest of the universe. The human species fascinates most extraterrestrials because of the way that they move energy that way. They're such intense creators. So they focus on what they want, but they resist, right? So here's the thing. When you're taking cannabis, it teaches you to allow, so we're not resisting, but it also removes the extreme desire you have for creating.
That makes complete sense. And it kind of reminds me of crystals also, like my little pet over here. Like crystals can be used as a crutch, or it can be used as a teaching tool.
Exactly. What the perfect blend for humans would be to learn how to allow while simultaneously broadcasting desires, simultaneously broadcasting their vision for the future. That's the perfect scenario.
And is that achieved more with meditation? Isn't cannabis kind of like a deep meditation?
It depends on who takes it. A lot of these plant medicines have different effects on different people because of what the person themselves is meant to learn. Ayahuasca is actually the number one that does that. It'll take you wherever you need to go. But also, any of your plant medicines hold their own vibration. Each plant even holds its own vibration. And if that vibration of that particular plant is lower than the vibration you currently hold, then it will decrease your emotional state. Instead of going into a state of allowing, you will go more into a state of panic. But if your vibration is much lower than that medicinal, when it's added to your body and it causes your body to resonate with it, you will feel it allowing. So people are going to have a different reaction to it. Am I for legalization? Hell yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, long story.
Oh, don't get me started. I have a bunch of police friends, and they're all for legalization also. They said there's real crime out there that we need to go take care of. You know, this is ridiculous that we're being forced to put good people in jail.
Yeah, would you like me to tell you why we're doing that? Because this is an interesting one, because I had to do a video on cannabis. So what I do a lot of times when I have to do one of these videos is I'll pop out of body and go look at whatever that thought form looks like that's controlling all of those decisions. The reality is that, to make a long story short, the administrations that monitor our drugs in this planet and also our food are about the most corrupt money-driven people that you can imagine. So because of where they are and because of the money they're making and the chokehold they have over government, what they're afraid of, especially the pharmaceutical companies, is that if we allow these things like cannabis into the mainstream hands, they're going to lose tons of money, which they are. So that's the reason that this is all being blocked.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree and have several videos talking about that. I'm so glad I met you. This is so awesome. I was also going to ask you, something happened. This was a few. I'm kind of irresponsible with things. I don't know. I'm an inventor. I like to do my own experiments. I experiment on myself. So I'll do stuff, and I would never recommend anybody else do, because I want to see, is it going to hurt me? Because I mean, I've already died if I accidentally, kill myself, which they won't let me die right now. But if I accidentally kill myself, that's fine. I'm just really happy. But during this period of time that I was really, really, really mad after I came back, and my abilities were enhanced. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how disconnected I was from this reality when I came back. I was not grounded. I was away. I was looking at everything from above. It was kind of freaking me out. But I watched, I don't know, it was a video. I don't know how I got this in my head. But I thought, I'm going to go to the moon. I'm going to remote view, which I didn't. I actually did astral projection, because it's all kind of the same to me. After you're out of your body, it's the same to me. I don't know how to divide it up. But I did astral projection because they saw me. So I went to a moon base. It was like an underground base. I just wanted to see what was there. And I went there, and it was like an old military style desks and chairs and all that, and it looked like a human, half gray hybrid, and they were in these jumpsuits, and the doors, the only thing that looked like Star Trek-y was the door went inside the wall when it opened and then slid back out. It wasn't one like with a doorknob, but everything else, it was like from the 50s, like military style desks from the 50s. It was really weird. But I popped in there, and I was like, whoa, and then they see me, and they start to come after me, and I was like, oh crap, how did they see me? Then I went back into my body. And then a little bit later, I watched a video that influenced me to do something, and I got really upset, and I was like, they're controlling us from the moon, and I'm just going to go blow up a moon base. So I went back there, and I was mad when I did this, so this was really easy to do. And it came, I think, from my chest area, and it was a pulse that I put out. And it was the same two guys. I went to that same office. I put out like a pulse, which I tried to look on Google for what did it look like. It looks like a supernova is kind of what came out. And then after that, I could see, I was inside of the space, and I could see around that it had, I can't remember how many stories, 9, 10, 11 stories. And it was pretty large, this underground base, and I blew it up. So I was like, yeah, I did that. So then I made a video talking about what happens on the moon, stays on the moon, and I told people how to do it. I encouraged them to go blow up moon bases in this video. The next morning, I wake up, and on my inner thigh are these two identical marks. It's almost like stamps. Yep. That the closest thing I can say is like a cat paw, where it had like a round thing, but then each of these was a weird shape. Mm-hmm. But it was two identical ones, and then I found out it was radiation burns later. It stayed on there for months, and it was radiation burns. So I was like, I didn't know who did that to me. Was it like I got a medal from somebody for blowing it up? Did they mark me for, she's dangerous, we need to keep an eye on her? Or was this my own government? What are these marks?
Do you want me to answer?
Yes, please. I want to know what happened.
They call that a physical tag. So there are multiple different, you exist on multiple different dimensional realities, right? The Greys are the most famous for affecting the physical body. Because they're a technological species, they do more work third dimensionally and fourth dimensionally than fifth, sixth, seventh, and above. So everything before it is a physical structure is a blueprint. So when most people are going to the center of the Earth, or when they're going to these moon bases like you talk about, they're actually in a fourth dimensional reality. That's the blueprint reality just before this one. It's the one where you can, say, witness the what they call the silver cord that's coming out of beings, connecting your physical body to your non-physical body. So in a fourth and fifth dimensional reality, which is the one that you were particularly in, what will happen there is that sometimes beings, our government included, that are well aware of this, they can set up entire constructs that don't translate to physical. So even if you flew your ship there to the physical moon, you'd be walking around in a third dimensional awareness, and you'd be totally oblivious of what's going on a fourth dimensional level there. But oftentimes when somebody makes themselves a menace in the fourth and fifth dimension,
yeah, no, I'm a troublemaker.
Yeah, we love you for it. But the grays and the gray hybrids are the most famous for what they call tagging. So what it is that you've been tagged. So visually what it looks like when I'm looking at you right now, which you still have 2 of these tags. You had more before. You had about 6 at one point, but you have 2 tags still. What it looks like is these frequencies. It's almost like your leg has become a radio tower, right? So that it's like, okay, it's like microchipping. That would be the best way to describe it. If you microchip somebody, then they can monitor you. But we're talking technology that's so beyond where humans are right now that it would be difficult to explain how it works. But like a radio frequency, they can watch you anytime they want to. They're observing you all the time because of these tags. Now, because of the fact that they're not as high dimensional as, say, reptilians are, reptilians function on a much like 6th or 7th dimensional reality a lot. So because they're not at that level, they affect the physical a lot more, which is why you hear these reports of people that are getting taken and they're having experiments done on them and they're doing genetic harvesting and things like that. And so they'll come down and actually affect the physical body because they want to tag not just your spirit's whereabouts, but also your physical body's whereabouts so that they can come find you, basically.
That's, wow. Like you say I have 2 more. Are these the things that I can see on my body? Because there are other weird things that at the time I didn't know what it was, but I didn't pay attention. But this, you could not miss this. It looked like 2 like kitty cat paw prints with some weird shapes. It's like on purpose. Like I can see that.
So do you remember, so after that, here's the thing, after you received those, do you remember going to a group, it was mostly women, you were sitting around in like it was 2 rows of a circle. You actually ended up removing during that, I guess it was a spiritual practice, you actually ended up removing one of those tags, but the other one is still there. And you have another one that's coming from your sinuses, ironically.
You know, I have had, if all my fans know this, that's why I have the herbal tea. I'm always having allergy problems recently. You know what? I did not have allergy problems until that happened. I'm just, that's when it got bad. So, okay, I need to get those gone. I need to do something about that. Oh, crap.
Here's the fun thing about tags. Tags can be easily removed if a person increases their frequency so as to not feel powerless to anything. So what you'll find is that the reason that they can keep doing this, of course, relates to childhood trauma within your own life. So when you go back and continually, we call it rescuing, we call it soul retrieval. It's basically rescuing the little kids in their point of traumas. Then what you'll notice is that you can no longer be a match to being victimized. So a person who's no longer a match to being victimized or followed or tracked, see that vibration? This will make a lot more sense in retrospect when you look back on this interview. A person who makes themselves not a match to that because they've done a lot of internal integrating of the childhood state and the childhood self cannot be tagged, no matter what. And it frustrates the hell out of them, and then you'll be even more interesting to them. But
that is very interesting. There's a huge chunk of my childhood I do not remember. And my mom would say that, you know, I'd go in my room to play. I'd be very quiet. Like an hour or so later, she would come in to check on me because I was just so quiet. But I would be like hiding behind the blinds, screaming bloody murder, talking about describing monster and like creatures that were trying to harm me. And I don't remember any of this. Just my mom telling me about all these times that I was screaming or things like that. I've always had night terrors where these things, they were coming to kill me. And they were usually always men, kind of like yucky looking kind of men trying to kill me all the time.
Trust me when I tell you, this will make more sense. I did this video called How to Heal the Emotional Body. what I want you to do is to make a real practice of that particular technique, because what you'll find when you go back there, which you can do, you don't like have to go looking for the memories. The memories come back the minute that you're willing to feel the emotions. So that'll make sense more to you when you watch that video. But I want you to engage in that practice seriously, because believe me when I tell you that that thing you are always imagining stems from a real event. And it will surprise you. You will remember it all.
Very interesting. Yeah, I had these, I thought they were angels because they had wings. They were like 12 to 14 feet tall, and you could see like the shape of them. I grew up Baptist, so it's wings, it's angels, of course. But the shape, it was like a heat wave. You couldn't see features or anything. Just inside that shape was a heat wave, and I had 3 when I was a child. And then as I got older, I only had 2. Then I met my husband. I had 1, and then not very long after that, they disappeared. So I don't know what those were at this point, if they were torturing me or protecting me. I have no idea.
They were protecting you. Those, and I want to use the protection because they don't see you as to see that somebody needs protection is to see someone as inferior or weak, and so they don't see you that way. But that is what somebody would call an angel. It's an 11th dimensional being, but because you grew up Baptist and you already expected them to come in that form, that's why they came in showing themselves to you with that particular form.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they aren't gone, by the way. You just convinced yourself this is what happened. Throughout your life, at each of those cruxes that you just mentioned, you started to feel more and more alone, and you started to focus on that more and more. This is something interesting. When we a lot of people wouldn't understand that, because when we get into relationships, like with our partners, a lot of times you'd think that you'd feel like more like you had a companion, but what actually happens when you get into a relationship is that your companion starts to exhibit the same sort of profiles as a lot of the caregivers in your childhood, a lot of which were traumatic, and so it actually highlights how alone you feel often, because the partner can't relate or the partner can't fill in the blank, and that it's a normal thing that happens where the shadows come up, but during that phase you reactivated yet another level of feeling as if people weren't on your side and weren't there for you. And because of that thought process, you actually dropped out of the range where you could see them. They're still there. I'm actually watching them right now.
Well, the interesting thing is I can see, not the wavy ones, but the ones I see look like what you would typically call angels. They're male. They have wings with feathers. I mean, I'm seeing all of those. I see dead people. I'm seeing all this, but just they're not there anymore. I see a lot more.
That's going to make sense, too. What you just said is going to make total sense. I love this. I'm so excited.
I'm glad you're excited because I have more questions. Speaking of spouse, you said spouse. Mm-hmm. So let me see if I can do, I'm going to do a screen share in just a second. Hopefully I won't mess up this thing. My husband, from the instant he met me, it was like he was just attached to me. He fell in love instantly, and a devotion that is undying, and it's just like if I wanted to leave him, I couldn't. He's like, you're everything to me, and it was so instantaneous. It was kind of weird, and he's kind of got that attitude of I will kill anyone that tries to harm you. I feel very, very super protected by him, and it's just weird how our relationship was, because I'm like, I'm probably a very difficult person to live with, and he's able to live with me, and it doesn't matter what crap comes his way, he does well. But before I saw the antenna, I'll tell you about like 2 things. I saw, when I saw auras on purpose for the first time, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, I don't remember. I saw auras, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to look at my husband, and it was dark, and I saw this creature inside of him. And I'm going to show you a picture, and this is not exactly what he looks like. This picture right here, if you look at it, the snout, the nose and the mouth part was protruding more. But this is very similar to what it looks like underneath him. It's like there's a different creature inside of him, his spirit, and I don't see that in a lot of other people. And also, like, it's very muscular, like no fat. It's very, very muscular. It gives the presence of, I will kill anybody and anything to protect you. Like, I feel so protected. But it's kind of freaky that this thing is like occupying about the same space as my husband's body. That's really weird. And then I woke up one night. I think he got up to go to the bathroom or something. And then when he walked by the door, he hit it with his wedding ring. And so the noise, woke me up. And I opened my eyes, and there's this antenna thing on top of his head. It's about the size of a paper towel roll and about as long, maybe 1.5 feet long. And then it was as if you took a basketball and squished it, and that was on top. The top part was yellow, like bright gold and yellow. The bottom was blue, and the stem that came down to his head was blue. And it moved when he moves. Like we're in the bed, like it's stuck outside the wall, I guess. When we're in bed, I can't see the spaceship part of it. So, who is my husband? What is he doing here? Why does he have this attraction to me that he just won't let go, that I don't think is normal? And what the heck is this thing on his head?
Do you have a picture of him, out of curiosity?
Not that I can call up on my computer right now. So, I'm sorry. I could look through my phone while you're talking.
While I'm talking. What I would have to do for this particular scenario is to see an image of him. A lot of times on pictures, what will happen is that those types of things will show up actually to me. Depends on the film. And a lot of digital images will show everything just like real life. So if I could see an image, then I could tell a lot more about what's going on.
Okay, my phone is like really slow. So this might take a couple minutes. But, like, the spaceship, I mean, when I'm looking for a picture, like, what are those antenna things?
An antenna is usually used in order to, like a receiver, to receive a consciousness stream that is being projected from another location. So what I would guess is happening, based on what you just said, I'll know more when I can see an image of him, is that his physical body, this would not have been the way that he came in, so this would have been something that was added in accordance with his asking somewhere within childhood or teenage years. So teenage years is what's popping up actually more so for him. And so what that would enable something to do is that if we had an extraterrestrial consciousness stream, reptilian is what I expect this is that it could project itself forth to his physical body and experience living through his person. So either we have a being whose physical body is now, it's sort of like a walk-in, where their original source stream pulled back and this being walked in order to facilitate his body. There's a multitude of different reasons that could have happened. Another potential is that it is cohabiting, meaning that it's gaining its expansion by watching this experience and participating like a guide that can actually be inside of a body and see through your eyes.
That is very interesting. I'm still trying to find a picture. I'm sorry. So, wow. Why can't I find a picture? Of course I can't find a picture. While I'm looking for a picture, let me ask you about something else. How do people find out why they came here?
The only way to do that is to let yourself go in the direction of joy. People don't like that answer because they'd rather I just tell them what it is that they came here for. But the only reason you really want to find out why you came here to this planet and what your purpose is because you think it would make you feel better to have a purpose and to know that. So let's do this the way that it was meant to be done, is that you learn how to use your internal guidance system to go in the direction of the thoughts that feel good, the people that feel good, the things that feel good. That amplifies even more once you've done that because you're already ready for the next step, which is then releasing resistance to what negative energy you have by letting yourself drop into negative emotions instead of run away from them. And then what will happen is that as a byproduct of you allowing yourself to go in the direction of your joy is that your purpose falls in your lap. That's how it was always meant to be. Because purpose is synonymous with joy. It's like if I had my way, people who really want purpose, they would write that on every mirror in their house. Purpose is no different than joy. So if you follow what makes you feel good, no exceptions to this rule, you will find it instantaneously. It's just that most of us have to train ourselves to do that again because we've been trained out of that. when mom looks at the kid and says, I'm sorry you want to play with toys, you need to do math, the kid sort of abandons what they want to be doing in favor of approval of society, and then they've completely lost touch with their purpose because they've lost touch with what makes them happy. A lot of people, when you ask them what makes you happy, they don't even know. That is the very thing which prevents you from purpose. People who know what makes them happy are not at a loss for what their purpose is. You know?
That makes complete sense. Absolutely. I found a picture. These are bad pictures, but these are some of the ones that get deleted. He looks like a convict in this one.
Yeah.
So. Oops. Crap, I'm new to fancy phones. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can see anything else in that picture of him. And I think I've got one more that he doesn't want me to show anybody. But it's like, you're going to do that in front of my camera. I'm going to show people. So he's just being funny there. So did you...
He still has the secondary stream. So instead of him being a body who is walked into by another being, he has two streams of consciousness that are coming into his physical being. The first stream is coming directly from source energy, just like a typical human, where it would be like the source consciousness projects itself forward into a third-dimensional person. He's got a secondary stream that is co-inhabiting his body, which is a reptilian being. So this is an interesting thing, too, because it's also, this might make your whole family interesting to the Greys especially, even more so, because of the fact that the vibration that he had in those pictures makes him look like what we in our community would term a turncoat reptilian. Turncoat reptilians, what they do is it's like, you know how not all humans agree with, like, whaling?
Okay.
Not all reptilians agree with the reptilian propaganda here on planet Earth, and so select reptilians have chosen to turncoat, and they've chosen to align themselves with beings who are here facilitating the expansion of human consciousness. So you could consider him like on the reptilian most wanted list, and his purpose would be to be here just what he thinks it is. That he's a match to that because of his own childhood stuff, so we'll leave that aside. But as far as we're concerned, right here in this moment, his purpose is exactly what he thinks it is to make sure that nobody harms you so that your information can get out here in the public before other beings, his own race included, get in the way of that because they don't want that to occur.
Okay, I got chills because that makes 100% sense. We have had conversations that he has told me, this is not normal, Kelly, my attraction to you and all that. I don't understand why I've got this burning desire to protect you and make sure. And then it just kind of came to him when he saw like how many people I was helping and what I was doing. It became clear to him that's why he came here and paired himself up with me, was to make sure that I did get all of this out. I'm going to cry. Wow.
Oh, it's a much more beautiful story. Would you like me to continue?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so the reptilians are a lot like flies. In the universe, they're the garbage collectors. They're wonderful. I mean, we like to look at reptilians like they're really terrible, but I'm pretty sure that the little chicken is looking at humans like we're really terrible, right? Because of our relationship to them. Reptilians will clean up anything that no longer serves expansion. And so based on the amount of wars, the amount of homicide, the amount of like bizarre sociopathic behaviors that have been shown in humans over the years, the reptilians have tagged our particular race as a cleanup species, they call it. Something where it's going to be wiped off so that a new thing takes place because our consciousness no longer benefits. And there's a lot of other beings in the universe. Is part of why Earth is like such a big focus for extraterrestrials right now, because there's so much expansion happening here, and also because it has a reptilian tag, meaning that it's next for cleanup. Now here's the thing. If a lot of other beings, on top of wanting to facilitate human growth, they understand that if we can prove that humanity has the ability to completely awaken into consciousness, and to pull themselves out of those types of behaviors, then the reptilian reasoning behind tagging the human race as a cleanup to be done is not going to stand up. It won't hold water. So here's the major, like, beautiful reason why someone like your husband would turncoat and choose to put all of his effort towards what you're doing, is that if you can get that person who's over in, let's say, Kansas, who would never have thought a second thought about any of this stuff to wake up and be like, wow, actually, let's question everything. What are we doing? Then they can no longer have an argument. And the beautiful thing about reptilian culture is that it's a hive mind. And so if in the hive mind it's proven that humans have the ability to be this beautiful, enlightened race, then they have to change their mind. There's no other option, because in a hive mind there's no such thing as disagreement. And even though your husband, that being who is projected forth into him as is now inhabiting his body with his original source stream, even though his being is focused here, his mind is still collected to the hive mind. So every single time your husband sees the evidence that this is the case, so does the rest of the collective.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right?
This is amazing stuff. When I was writing you all of this stuff, I thought she's going to think I'm crazy. That's what everybody says when they write me. Kelli, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Well, the thing is, if you're locked down into a third-dimensional perspective, everything seems like science fiction that is in fact reality the minute you realize just how limited the third dimension is.
That is very interesting. At one point in my experimentation of things, and this is when I kind of got a bunch of demonic entities in the house, and I had to have it cleared and all that. So this is kind of during this period of time. When I hear about something, I'm one of those people, I want to experiment myself, I want to try it myself and see if this is actually true. So I heard that they, I don't know what terminology to use, but basically put demons, this Reader's Digest version, put demonic entities into songs, that popular songs that they put on the radio. I heard this concept that they did it, and I wanted to see if it was true or not. So I turned on different songs, and I've got a whole video about this, different songs. These demons would produce themselves. Some would tell me their name, some would not tell me their name. Some of them just tried to kill me. And I was just blindly kind of doing dangerous stuff when I was doing this. But one thing surprised me, because demons were supposed to be in all of these videos or in all these songs. I played E.T. by Katy Perry. And when I played E.T., Ra showed up, told me it's collective entity, collection, but I just say he, Ra shows up and gives me his name and takes me on lots of journeys all throughout the universe and shows me things like where planets are produced or where they create planets and manufacture them and all kinds of stuff. So that really surprised me that of all the songs that, I'm not good. It's very interesting. She has a lot of videos that have symbolism, and I just don't know, is she one of us? Is she one of them? What's going on with Katy Perry? Why she would have an entity like that and not a demonic being in her song?
Katy Perry is an indigo, and she's also a starseed. And so she's an interesting person because she's managed, and not by everybody else's choice, by the way. She's managed as somebody who is for the enlightenment of mankind to infiltrate herself into a highly reptilian agenda. And first, I don't know how she's done that because she hasn't been the focus of my attention out of body. I haven't gone and seen how she's managed to make it so that she hasn't been as big of a target for the very people who surround her, quite frankly. Because most beings, Lady Gaga is a perfect example, exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. It is exactly as you would say. So what we could say is that a light worker has infiltrated themselves into mainstream Hollywood. Hard to do. I would love to see how she accomplished that one.
Yeah, that is very hard to do. When I started getting approached by producers, I did television before I went into the internet, and I hosted travel shows, and it was getting to the place where, Kelli, let's get your talk show together, and we're going to put it on TV. And it's like, well, sleep with me, and we'll move forward. So my career kind of ended at that point, and I was depressed, and then I went on YouTube, and it was like, YouTube, here I am, and I presented myself to YouTube. Well, the producers found me again, and they wanted to put, the Long Island Medium people found me and said, my daughter's psychic also, and they wanted to do a reality show that was a cross between the Long Island Medium and Honey Boo Boo. And the money looked really, really good, and we thought about it, but they were only going to do maybe 1% of what we're capable of doing, and just for entertainment value only, and not letting everybody know that they can do this. So we've kind of decided I don't think we need to go down this route. But when I started getting approached by producers and talking about these reality shows, I started being approached by entities who were starting to tell me, make your hair blonde. They were starting to groom me for Hollywood, if you will, and just to be the typical person on television. And I resisted that. I mean, it was very, very strong. It's like all of a sudden I wanted to bleach my hair, and it's like, no, wait a minute, what's going on to me? Who are these entities, trying to do that? And I resisted that and pushed away. And I said, if I get back on television, then I'm going to get to say what I came here to say, and it's not going to be, somebody else using me for that. So I know how hard it is when you get into Hollywood, because I experienced that, the entities trying to take over you.
Yeah.
And
it's like Hollywood. I lasted there 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Went there and realized that even though the rest of the California coast is pretty awesome, LA is like a vacuous hole of doom, basically. It is completely infiltrated by some of the darkest stuff. Wow. Yeah, and I was like, I can't. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this until I have a major group on my side, at least. Smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to go down that route. But so Katy Perry was able to resist all of these entities trying to channel through her, and I don't know what terminology to use, because it felt like entities were trying to get inside of me and to go like, okay, Kelly, you can take a step aside, and I will do what it is that needs to be done for these projects.
Katy Perry's somebody that we would say has a North Star. What that basically means is that this is so funny that I'm talking about a pop icon, and it's like the opposite of the kind of music I listen to. But when we say that somebody has a North Star, what it means is that they have come to believe in something so strongly that they're able to blind themselves to everything else. And it puts them in a bubble reality. So she may or may not be aware of the darkness that basically is around her, but because she has that North Star and is so fixated on it, she can become kind of like a blinded Christian, funny enough, and it's beneficial this time. And what that means is, if I'm a blinded Christian, then I don't see anything else. The laws of the universe are actually enabling me to live in a subset reality, which does not include the rest of this stuff. And yet she's able to get that message out to the rest of the people as well. So let's just continue and hope that this just stays on the track that it does.
Well, that's very comforting to know that about Katy Perry. It makes me feel better, and it explains why there was not a demonic entity in her song.
Yeah.
There was something else. Not that I like Raw or anything like that. You need to handle Raw carefully, because Raw also has an agenda, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, we're running out of time, and I still have like a page of stuff. I would, after you, I wanted to go ahead and tell everybody about, you've got a website, tealswan.com. You also have a book out, Sculptor in the Sky, and you've got a book coming out this next year, How to Love Yourself. So, like, when your next book comes out, do you mind coming back on and telling everybody about it?
Hell yeah.
Yay, that would be so awesome. Well, before we conclude, is there any nuggets of wisdom or anything that you want to tell everybody that you're just dying to tell? Yeah, that was a big question.
Yeah, I'm like, oh gosh, 3, 2, 1.
It's like, how do you eat an elephant?
Nuggets of wisdom. I think for the particular readers that are or watchers that are gonna be watching this, the most important thing that I can say, obviously, from my perspective, having spent so much time out of here and also having no filters, what I'll tell you is that the most important thing you can possibly do is to pay attention to how you feel, and to make how you feel the most important thing in your entire life. That means if you're doing something right now that doesn't make you feel good, we got to find a way to quit doing it, because not only does that prohibit your growth in your life, it also prohibits the expansion of this universe. And it's really scary when we're standing at that precipice where we're going to jump ship from what we have been doing onto something brand new that makes no sense just because it feels good. that's a scary place to be, and I completely understand that. But anybody who has jumped will tell you that it was the best decision they ever made. So that would be what I'd say.
Awesome. These are excellent, excellent words. You're such a wonderful person. No wonder everybody loves you. You're so full of knowledge. You're so beautiful, too.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your son's graduation. You had pre-graduation today, right?
Yeah, preschool graduation.
Aw, that was so cute.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Well, thank you so much, Teal, for being on my show, and thank you guys for watching this show. If you have any questions for Teal, I don't know how much time she has. She's a very busy person, but if you put comments below, she might have a little bit of time to say hi to you guys and answer some questions. But otherwise, in the comments, let Teal know how much you love her and how much you appreciate her being on this show. So, all right, well, we're going to end this broadcast. So I guess I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.
Love you.